Careful what you say or we'll get together.
Right. Welcome back for another evening of fun and drinks and talking shit. So that's pretty much the summary of the show tonight.
I didn't start drinking early enough.
Tim, Kenny, how you doing?
Doing good.
Too sober.
Yeah, I did no pre-gaming. Honestly, I was caught up on another case that I think I briefly talked to both of you. I know I talked to Tim about it more, but it was somebody I was looking into and weird, interesting history. So I got sucked into it, and I saw your message about, I'll be on in a couple minutes, and like that was like 20 minutes ago. I looked over again. I was like, oh shit, I gotta get on. All right.
Damn, we got a show tonight. All right. Well, let's see who's in the chat room. Paul, hello. John, how you doing? Bob, good to see ya. And Jim, very good. We got a good crew of people here to join us to listen to us talk about, let's start with the fact that this is our very first episode of Three Tortured Souls, book club or book review, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, Tim's got the library. Who would stack books like that, Tim?
Certainly no human would do that.
Clearly, no human would do that. So tonight, we are going to discuss this book right here, Elements of a Haunting, Connecting History with Science to Uncover the Greatest Ghost Stories Ever Told.
Setting the bar high.
Hey, Jade, thanks for joining us. So let's start with our opening comments. I am going to start with Tim.
I had a good time reading this book. It was a good time, but between us three, it was. I don't think we probably had a chat log that long over a single subject in a long time. My summarization is what I felt, and I kind of mentioned it. It feels like a TV ghost hunting show in print format. It's just kind of like, it just sounds like it's what they do in the TV show, and they just put it in a book. It wasn't anything, at least anything I came across, that was groundbreaking. There were some things in there I really, 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 really wish that they would have put a citation to some of their claims that they have, so I could actually read the publications, if there is one, to some of the papers that they said that there were, or experiments that they did. I would have really enjoyed it. But unless I missed it, I didn't see the citation for it or where to find them. So it just really felt like kind of like a ghost hunting TV show in a book form.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, Kenny, what say you?
I fucking hated this book. Wait, that should be my ending credit or my ending statement. I'm sorry. It was interesting, and I agree with Tim. Like, this was a very long thread, and it's always funny. And I wish we could do some kind of like behind the scenes stuff with that, because it's just it's funny reading the text and reading, like, when we start going on tangents, especially Dave. When he goes
Fuck,
nuts. Oh, it's great. I love it. I
Oh,
just
boy.
sit and look at my phone and crack up for hours. But yeah, I mean, this was definitely it was a ghost hunting TV show that we were reading instead of watching. And it was there's a lot of problems. I do have like 2 or 3 maybe positive comments, but I have 8 pages. This is the most I have for one topic. 8 pages in small print because I wanted to put so much detail into it, but 8 pages of notes, which I know that we're not going to get through. But wow, this was a chore. And I mean, I love to read. I absolutely love to read, but this was one of those books where I would read a chapter or read like 2 pages and put it down and just do like, fuck. All right, I have to do this. I have to get it done. And then when it was,
well, we're going to give you shit if you don't get it done.
I know, because then one of you said, "Oh, can we?" I think Dave, maybe you mentioned it. Like, can we have this done by this Saturday? Like, fuck. Now I got to power through it.
Yeah, then a little peer pressure on Tim, and he got started. And hey, here we are.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my opening statement.
All right. So the people that just joined us tonight, we're going to review and discuss the book Elements of a Haunting, Connecting History with Science to Uncover the Greatest Ghost Stories Ever Told by Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari. Gatollari? That sounds close. I'm sorry if I apologize if I butchered his name. So I'll talk a little bit here, introduction, and then we'll just kind of go through this and talk about it in general. And then I got a bunch of specific things I noted. I did find it interesting as we were exchanging texts and messenger, how many times we hit on the same things. It was funny. Kenny or Tim would take a picture of a highlights section with, reference ? Show me your data ? WTF ? And it was a lot of the same things I picked up on as well. So it'll be interesting. Typically, when we do shows, as our listeners know, we come from a little different perspective, and I think we probably will end up doing that again tonight. But to me, it was interesting that we hit on a lot of the same things. So the premise of the book, and I'm going to start with the brief forward on page, 13, Roman number 13, where, quote, application of a scientific method which to date has not really been applied. And then it moves on to talk about, why the authors are involved and their experiences and why they got in the field. And the other thing that was stated is this supposedly earth-breaking, groundbreaking classification system to classify different types of ghosts and hauntings. So the premise to me, what I took away is and the author said this, and the person who wrote the foreword is, there's really been no scientific method or science applied to the field of paranormal investigation, of course, until this book came along, which I've heard that claim many times, which that was the first couple F-bombs I started sending to Tim and Kenny.
I knew that was going to make you lose your shit.
Yeah, I'm going to get worked up as I talk about this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then they get into the fact that the two authors say, I still approach every investigation as a skeptic in methodology and practice. And then with the whole rounding up the introduction, and we have compelling proof that that ghosts and hauntings are real, quote, and we have compelling proof that they are. So right out of the gate, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this could be interesting. And then they start talking about the correlations they found, the correlations with environmental data, barometric pressure, light anomalies, photon activity, which, oh, geez Louise, photon activity. Okay. Then they're data logging, and I thought, oh, great, data logging. I love data logging. They're going to get into data. I'm going to be able to dig into this, and maybe they did find something, because I'm like, up front, the premise is great. I think the premise is good, to apply science and the scientific method and come up with a classification scheme, use data logging, correlations. I'm like, this is right up my alley, until I read the book. Then it kind of got a little questionable for me. So why don't we talk about the first point, the application of the scientific method, which to date has not been applied to the field. My first comment is that's the first example of their ignorance of the field, because that's obviously not true. There's plenty of publications. There's plenty of work that's been done, not only by other paranormal investigators, but there's actually been academic researchers that have done this. Look at Richard Wiseman, look at Joe Nickell, look at anybody that has approached this field with an academic or scientific background. Look at the recent publications by Brian Lathe, Jason Braithwaite, James Horan. To me, that just totally showed a lack of knowledge. And maybe, what's the word? Maybe they're naive. Maybe they don't know about the academic knowledge. But if you're going to claim to bring the field out of the shadow of pseudoscience, and that was one of their quotes, and provide data and a scientific approach to the field, one of the main things you better fucking have is an understanding of the academic literature. And it's not there. It's not there. I think they to be a constructive criticism comment, I think they missed an opportunity to highlight what's been done in the past and build on that, and if they could build on it. So that's my first point. So I'm going to go the opposite direction and see what Kenny's got on that point, or if he wants to go after another one.
I'm just going to wing it. So yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of what you said, yeah, they missed a great opportunity. The title of this book really, or actually the subtitle, Connecting History with Science to Uncover the Greatest Ghost Stories Ever Told. That right there is like the boldest bullshit I've seen in a long time, where you're saying like these in this book are the greatest ghost stories ever told. Like, no, citation. That's great, Jen. Yeah, they need this book. I'm going to jump. Here we go. I'm jumping ahead now.
And I do know the reference she's making, and it makes it even more hilarious. I'm not going to share it, but the reference is comparing to another complete idiot. So go ahead. Sorry, Kenny.
The references in this book, the citations, there are some citations. And that's what I look for when a book starts talking about science, that they're bringing science to it. I start looking for citations. And it's like, I really have this idea that the authors don't understand what citations are used for. Like, I get it. Like, you can reference work that you are quoting. Yes. Mm-hmm. And they do that. And there's times where they put a whole bunch of scientific jargon in there, but they don't reference where they got it from.
Right.
And then there's times where there's actually like one sentence, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth and not being able to give some examples because there's so many. Like, I swear I was numbering these, and I have like 250 different points that I brought up. That's just the ones that I wrote down.
Right.
But there's references where they say like this magazine citation referenced this paper citation about this, and then he talks about what the paper did. Like, there was no reason to actually cite the magazine first. That only mentioned the paper that he's going to talk about, and it just seemed redundant to me. Mm-hmm. The classification, and again, I'm jumping around, so stop me or interrupt me if you want to. The classification system that they talk a lot about, and like, this is the end all be all. This is amazing and groundbreaking shit. Isn't even their own classification, and I'm feeling it inside me, and now I'm getting pissed off. It's not even their own shit. They literally took it from 3 other books, and they reference it. I have one of the books here. Not only did they take the concepts, so they're classifying different types of ghosts and or hauntings. They take the names directly from at least this book. I don't have the other two books, but I mean, when they talk about it, and I'm going to show you because it just pisses me off. So, like, this is part of their classification system, and the references there. Each classification has a citation, and you can see right there where it says emotional attachment, page 93. This, oh my god, I love doing this kind of shit.
Oh,
so let's see. Up, emotional attachment, chapter 10. That's where they got it from, and they did the same thing. I marked the page numbers from where I got it.
Let's dwell on that point that you made. That's a good point because they basically took it from other people. At least they gave a citation, which we'll give them credit for that one.
Yes.
The one thing I found interesting is that this is kind of the basis, part of the basis for their book is this classification system. And they state after whatever 16 years of experience in the field, they've developed this classification system. Well, one is the point Kenny just made. And the second one is if you have 16 years of data and you had to take somebody else's classification system, what is the actual advancement in the field?
Right.
And I get real picky. I get kind of scientific here, but I'm thinking you have 16 years of data. Why didn't you analyze all the different characteristics and do like a cluster analysis or a factor analysis and actually come up with a scientific classifications basis to what you're talking about? Right. So while I think it's a great idea, in that some aspect, it's already been done. And another one, if you knew the literature, again, I'm going to hit on that constantly. They're moving away from breaking down and classifying things as a ghost, a haunting, or a poltergeist, because it might be on some sort of continuum that there's a pattern that they follow. So again, it really leans on the fact that they didn't have any knowledge of the literature. So I'm going to stop. I just want to stop you right there, Kenny, because that was a big basis of their book. And I had a couple points there, and let's see if Tim has some, and then we'll turn it back over to you because you're going to be on a roll here. Tim, what do you think of the classification system?
In the classification system, while I was going through it, literally, it was just, I kept waiting for like the class 2 phantom roaming vapor from Ghostbusters. That's what it felt like. I was like really looking for that to come around.
I didn't expect you to say that. That got me. Good one.
It's just, again, it felt like it just felt like I was just going back through a show. And one of my things, like I'm certainly not a scientist, but classifications, I didn't understand, or like, what was your basis of the classifications and what was your distinctions and what would you call relevant? Like if this was a class, these are things I would ask my professor or my doctor or somebody, that was teaching the class, like why did you do these? How did you come up with these? And for the book is, why isn't it exactly in there? And we talked about that one citation and I looked at the citations in the other books, but it just, I don't know. As far as the citation goes, or the classifications go, it certainly wasn't high on my radar, that part.
Okay.
So one of my beefs or gripes is kind of goes along with what both of you guys were saying, and I think Dave, you more so, when they mentioned that this is based on like 16 years of data they've collected. But the 3 books that they pretty much lift their classification system from, the first one is from 1991. So we're talking 30 years ago. This was out. So it was way before they started doing all this shit. And then the second one is from 96. And then the latest one was 2010. So this is still there.
And this isn't an old book. This is a 2022 book we just read.
Right.
Just came out.
We pre-ordered it.
We pre-ordered it in October.
and we just got it and read it. So it's not like this has been around for a while and, we're referencing something that was published, in the early 2000s or late 90s. I mean, we almost could be because they're taking information from books from the 90s and rehashing it. So I really didn't like that. I really was bothered that every single thing that they put on their chart, that's the book, Skip.
And then, hey, as you're going through this, can you go through the classification system? Because we've had 2 questions on that. If you could just zip through it real quick or give us a couple examples, that would be great.
All right. So classification, class 1 are haunting apparitions, a figure or figures that are seen in the same place on a series of different locations by one or more people. And then they break it down into emotional attachment, gray ladies, innocence, ghost. Innocence, ghost. Not innocent ghosts. Innocence. That doesn't make sense. I don't like that. Class 2, helping entities. And under that, we have familia. How do you say that? Familia. Ghostly apparitions said to be associated with a particular family. Oh, okay. Family apparitions, hauntings.
Yep.
And there goes my awesome pronunciation skills. Then we have guilt-ridden entities. We have crisis apparition. Guilt-ridden entities is also in the other book, like word for word. That's the name that they use. Class 3 are restless spirits. When a person suffers a traumatic sudden death, leaving them with unfinished business. Oh, Jesus. And under that, class 3, we have bound by loved ones, suicide apparition, and murdered apparition. Class 4 is malevolent. Oh my God. Malevolent entities. Oh, I can feel it burning in my soul. And under that, we have 1 point, which is green ladies. I'm sorry. Green ladies, we have a hag, and we have radiant boys. And in class 5, pseudo hauntings, elementals. And that's it. That's basically.
I think Jim just summed it up. This is bloody groundbreaking.
I mean, it's really, really bad. It's saying they started to develop this in 2007 after years of field and book research.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It's. I mean, I really liken this to. It's not plagiarism, but it's stealing other people's work. It's like if I just went through all these books back here and just said, you know what, I like this paragraph. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put that in my book. It's just stealing other people's definitions and names, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. It doesn't. It's not original. It's not showing any kind of creativity. It's not showing the results of your own research. It's a copy and paste. So I have a big problem with that.
I think what you kind of posted up, what Tom said, like what are the physical basis is kind of where I was when I kind of got into it. I was just, like, what was your, what's your rationale? Like, how did you get to these? Like, what were you doing? Like, what am I trying to say? Like, how did you get there? Like, tell me how you got there. How did you get each one of these other than just kind of coming up for a name? Because
that's exactly what I thought.
Ghost boys, because they're ghosts of boys that were murdered. Like, is there ghost girls, or are you just not including everybody? Are there ghost geriatrics? Are there ghost middle age? Why? I kind of really at some point was just like, yeah, I'm just going to roll right on past the classification system because it's neither here nor there for me.
All right, let's clear a couple questions. So it's on Audible. Should I subject myself to the pain? Wait until the end of the show. You decide. I don't want to give it away. You'll get a clear view of our opinion by the end of the show. Yeah, I can post the authors in the chat. I'll do that after I clear these questions. JD, was it at least entertaining? I'll go first, then turn it to Tim for a quick answer. For me, it was entertaining as I read it and messaged back and forth with Tim and Kenny. Tim, were you entertained?
As far as a book club with this book, it was a lot of fun. You guys just kept me cracking up for days on this, and the book, it was what it was, but I had fun with you guys. That was for sure.
What do you think, Kenny? Were you
Same.
entertained?
I mean, I was entertained by you guys. The book did not entertain me at all. It was a chore. This was work, because we had to really research shit, and really check references when they do pop up. And I mean, we can talk about a particular reference when you're ready. But my quick answer is no.
Carol, so you all have pretty much decided it lacks credibility. Yeah, I think that's, for me, that I would say yes. Yeah. So do we need to continue reviewing it? Oh yes. Yes, we do. And really, because I think we can provide some constructive criticism, and we can also provide a perspective of, just because, again, you're on TV and you throw around lots of fancy scientific sounding things, it ain't necessarily true.
Right.
All right. I think we got one more question, and then we'll get back to the review. JD, I would think a classification system either is used for conceptual clarity or because it fits within an explanatory framework. Does their classification system exist because of either? I think in their minds, they think it does. But again, the lack of any type of formal analysis to cases and characteristics and attributes, I don't see it fitting in. It's just a rehash. And Kenny pointed out, they reference and took it from other sources. It's a rehash of stuff that's already out there. And two, there's a lot of recent literature talking about classification systems of ghosts and hauntings, and it's based on real science, and this doesn't coincide with that at all.
So, yeah, to touch on that a little bit more, the classifications. So, two examples here: suicide apparition, the spirit of someone that has taken their own life and regrets the act. Murdered apparition, the spirit of a person that was murdered by the hand of another. Like, these are not like secrets. These are not anything new. Like, we've heard this kind of thing. I mean, I remember in the 90s hearing this, from other ghost hunters. Oh, the ghost is supposed to be this person that was murdered. And this is a classification of, I want to say perceived or subjective, because they're basing it, and we'll get into data collection later, but they're making a guess as to what the ghost is or who it is, and then they're putting it into this very simple stolen classification system. So,
I would like to see a classification of like a Jacob Marley ghost. Someone that was a real dick when they were alive, and now they're forced to come back and try to make amends by helping other people live a better life. That I would like.
That would be good.
That would be a Marley classification. That's a Marley ghost.
Nice. All right. So are we good on the classification system?
Yes.
All right. So I'll throw it over to Tim for the next part of the book he wants to bring up and discuss. And we'll just kind of go around the horn here and each bring up something we want to discuss and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, right off the bat, I guess something that I would say that would be something that kind of excited me for a little bit and actually makes me want to keep referencing researching is with the Dr. Harry Clore. When I got to, it's on page 22, so it's kind of early into the book, and I thought, man, this might go some places if we're talking about. He talked about developing an experiment to see if the influence of fear pheromones have anything to do with people around you. Don't, Dave. I'm trying really hard.
Okay, I'll bite my tongue.
I like the concept of that. I did like the concept of it. And I thought, sure, yeah, okay. Let's see where it goes. And it did say the test was inconclusive. So to quote, it was said after that, what made this significant was that this proven scientific test could not account for a natural explanation for the said phenomena. And I don't know, but you'll see. Oh, I don't know if it's good. I can't tell. My first thing is, where's the citation? If this was a test, an experiment, I certainly would have loved to see the data, how it was done, what methods were used, how many people were used in the experiment. Like, what did you do to do this, to end up with this, proven scientific test? Could not account. I mean, that's kind of a big claim. I really wish maybe it is out there. I don't know, but I would have loved to see this because I guess coming from a more psychology background, I would like to know if that was an influence with pheromones from another person. I don't know. I just like the idea. I'm going to I have that in my notebook that I'm going to keep reading and see if there's other literature on, because I kind of feel like there is probably some fear literature with pheromones, if not other stuff. But
okay.
yeah, I just didn't see it. And I thought it was a good idea. I did like the start of it. It just kind of fell flat.
So, couple things on that. My job before my current one was working with a semiochemical pheromone company. So I looked at that and thought, ooh, there's a lot of pheromones in mammals, animals, rodents, insects. I thought, ooh, this is going to be interesting. And like Tim, I was really wanting a reference. So I didn't see a reference, but yet they referred to cortisol, which is not a pheromone. It's a hormone produced by the adrenal glands that stimulates or it can affect your mood, your motivation, and it can affect fear. It can also regulate your blood pressure, increase blood sugar, your sleep-wake cycle, but it is clearly not a pheromone. So I don't know. Maybe they were trying to see if this supposed fear pheromone, which you're not going to find much on humans. I'll tell you that right now, Tim. You can Google down the quantum rabbit hole as long as you want. I'm not sure you're going to find too much on fear pheromones with humans. But the cortisol, I'm not really sure if they were trying to say that was an indicator of the response to the fear pheromone or not. But I mean, it's a hormone. And if they were trying to refer to cortisol as a fear pheromone, that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
They should be. I mean, how would you test for? I don't know anything about pheromones. So how would you test for that? I mean, I understand cortisone levels increase with fear.
Right.
So I don't know if that's what they're looking for, but I mean, if you're sending and full disclosure too, we've already done a show criticizing an experiment that one of these authors did with, I believe, with the same doctor guy. And we had big issues with that experiment, mostly ethical issues. So I don't understand what they were doing here. If they deliberately scared these people, because then I don't understand what the pheromones have to do with. This part confused me a lot, and I knew it was going to be really in depth, and I was like, oh, this is like page 20 something. We got pages and pages to go, like 100 and some pages or 200 pages to go. So I didn't spend a lot of time on this one.
So the last comment on this one I'll make is they also quote on page 28, quote, multiple science-related publications also spoke about our experiment and the episode. Tim, you find any references on that one?
No.
Damn.
Also, they reference that this experiment it was this particular experiment that caused a lot of controversy within the paranormal field. Well, shit.
I didn't hear anything
would
about
have would have loved to have seen the discussion. Social media, quote, social media and paranormal websites were abuzz with the different takes on the experiment. Again, the experiment. You keep referencing something that you're not giving me access to. And that was very frustrating. If you're going to reference it and talk about how great it was and all the fallout of it, then let me see it. Let me read it. Multiple science-related publications. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's where you got. But yeah, all that was, spoke about our experiment and the episode. But where?
So this is, I'm reading beginning. I don't know if you guys read this off already and I just missed it, but he talks about that hunted animals release a fear pheromone to alert the rest of their herd that a predator is nearby. And then it switches to Dr. Kluwer, wanted to test each participant's cortisone levels. So, yeah, you're right. He's not testing, like, that's two different tests, completely different tests. You would have to test to see if pheromones were released.
If pheromones were present.
Not an elevated level of cortisone because of fear, especially if you're telling people they're going into a haunted house. So this, wow. Now it's finally hitting me. Like, this is completely useless. Completely fucking useless. Wow.
I like the concept. I still like the concept of it. If you are sweating and going, getting really stressed, is there something that your body is emitting from a biological evolutionary process that you want to signal to the other people in your tribe or family or pack or whatever that you are in fear and there is something else?
I mean, yeah, you can't test. The test was inconclusive because they didn't test for what they started the paragraph out with. So that was a dud. That's a stupid fucking book. God damn. Now I'm getting pissed off again.
Okay, so I'll throw out the next topic, which is a hot button for all of us, especially me. And I know Kenny is driving him nuts. Same with Tim. And we'll talk about our thoughts on this one. The inappropriate use of the word theory. Everything was a theory, which in the context that they used it, should have been a hypothesis. So I'll throw that out and let Tim and Kenny give us their thoughts on it. It really annoyed me. That pissed me off.
You know what? It did. I'm just going to jump in, Tim.
Sure.
It annoyed the shit out of me because it was for a book that on the cover is telling you that they're going to combine science with the history and bring this to you and that they're making all these breakthroughs. Get the fucking terminology right. Just get it right.
Yeah.
It's not a theory. It's not if you know what? That word is used in slang. Like everyday language, people use it as a slang term. The theory is sometimes it's used as an insult almost when it's like, oh yeah, in theory, that might be true. That kind of concept. But if you're going to talk from a scientific perspective, then use the terminology right. There are specific terms and definitions that the scientific community go by because they know what the terminology is supposed to mean, and it's distinct definitions. It's not just this interchangeable bullshit that happens. So get it right. I think they used hypothesis once. I remember seeing it.
Yeah,
I think
I saw it a couple times.
Yeah, but otherwise they were saying the theory is. No, there's a big difference.
I mean, let's just a quick definition. A theory is supposedly a group, not supposedly, it is a group of tested general propositions commonly regarded as correct. And they're used as guiding principles of explainable and predictors for a class of phenomena. That's what you should be talking about when you talk about a theory. But a hypothesis, it's a proposition or a set of propositions that it's set forth as an explanation that describes some specific group of phenomena. However, you test them. But unlike a theory, a scientific hypothesis is made before testing is done, and it isn't based on results. So
Right.
obviously, hypothesis was the word they should have been using.
Yes.
Tim's like, yeah, that.
All right, so I think we've addressed that. So I'm going to let Tim pick the next topic.
Well, jumping around, I guess, kind of like Kenny. One of the things that bothered me about as I read through the book, especially the latter parts when they were discussing what they did for each investigation. It's kind of a pet peeve for me, and I shouldn't say it's kind of, I mean, it really is a pet peeve for me when in an investigation or a collection of data that people speak of the ghost as a factual entity, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
it's already
there's
assumed to be there.
Yes, there is an assumption that there is a ghost here, and this is what we're working with. I certainly don't say that there's no such things. I cannot say that there's no such things as ghosts or entities. I can't say that. But on the flip side, I can't say when I'm doing an investigation, whenever I was doing an investigation, I can't say I'm working with the ghost to learn this technology to help the ghost communicate with me better, because I don't know. You're working with something you don't even know is real or is factual or is there. Or if something's there, you could be mislabeling and giving a completely erroneous identification for something that may be fascinating, but you're missing it because you want it to be a ghost, so you call it a ghost. But it could be something else just as fascinating, just as wonderful, if not more so.
Mm-hmm.
But you get stuck on labeling something. And it bothers me when they were doing that. And I think it was at that point when I got done reading so much of it that it really began feeling like just a ghost hunting show in a book. And that was the point that it kind of got summed up for me.
Right.
Okay. All right, Kenny, what do you got? What's the next thing you want to tackle?
I'm going to go back to citations.
Okay.
And this is the biggest. I think this was the first major issue I brought up with you guys, because I was reading through it and just checking citations, especially when it has to do with a quote, is something I'm big on. Like, as soon as I see something quoted and it has a citation, I go to that source and check it. Make sure that, one, it's correct, like it actually was word for word, and two, that it's presented in the right context, because that's important. Sometimes it's definitely taken out of context. So on page 39, ironically under ethics,
That's great.
That was the icing on the cake. As soon as I start reading it, and it starts literally with a quote. You can see, right? So this is what I'm reading. Ethics, right there, the highlighted versions. It says in 1842, Julius Robert Mayer discovered the law of conservation of energy. It is the most important. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Actually, I will, because it's not that long. Discovered the law of conservation of energy. In its most compact form, it is now called the first law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. In 1907, Albert Einstein announced his discovery of the equation E equals mc squared, and as a consequence, the two laws above were merged into the law of conservation of mass energy. The total amount of mass and energy in the universe is constant. End quote. So he cited that at the bottom here, and you can look it up, which I did. I typed in the web address that he put in there. That quote does not appear on that page. It's like little parts taken from different parts of the page and put together. And what's even really disturbing is that nowhere on the page does the name Julius Robert Mayer, the first name in the quote, appear. It's not on the page. And I went through it, and I actually sent the link to these guys. Like, can you check this? Because I think there's nothing here. I don't think this is the exact quote. So it was completely mashed together about different words. He also got the date wrong, because he says in 1907, Einstein announced his theory of this the equation E equals MC squared. And it actually took place, he published his paper September 27th, 1905. So he even got the date wrong. And I mean, that's honestly, if you're quoting something, most of us are doing everything on the computer now, and you copy and paste. I don't know how he fucked this up so bad. So that really set the tone. I mean, there was a few things beforehand, like you guys picked up, and little things that just really pissed me off before it. But when I read that and realized, like, this is not the quote, this is not correct, that really pissed me off, and it shows deception and deceitfulness, as far as I'm concerned. So there you go. That was my beef.
Well, let me jump in with some ethics, because on my notes with ethics, I don't know if anybody has ever had to sit through ethics class, which I agree should be taught, and it should be regularly taken by anybody in a professional field, especially professional when dealing with people. I know it's a hard class. We have to have it, hours of it. Sometimes some people can make it fun, but in the ethics, when I got to the ethics, I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. I know sometimes it's not, but I really thought that the ethics is going to address things like how to treat people you're working with, not necessarily like yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am, or whatever pronoun that they prefer. I thought it was going to be more along the lines of, when you see yourself outside of your professional capability dealing with someone, get out and get someone into that place that can provide the proper care for people. I didn't see stuff like that. Like, this is the type of ethics I thought it was going to be. I was kind of taken a little back by how an ethic starts out with a physics quote. And for just a second, I thought that they had messed up part of it, until it kind of got into what I was talking about earlier. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have any notes with it right here, but it seems like it goes into the ethics of treating the entity with respect. Is that what you have?
What page again?
Oh, just in the ethics. It's,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It and that goes back to what the problem I have with, we don't know if they exist. We really don't. And if something does exist, but it just felt like it was a really good opportunity to have some type of ethics put down that would treat how you treat a family, how you work with a family. That if you are an investigator, regardless if you are a mandated reporter in your professional life, that you are a mandated provider in your life as a paranormal investigator. So you have an ethical obligation to report to law enforcement any crime, any child abuse, elder abuse, something like that should have been in there. Ethics can be very long, but I think it missed the opportunity to get into something a little bit more special than just treating the ghost with respect.
Right. I thought the ethics section, which is short, I mean, it's only like a page, 2.5 pages, if that. It wasn't what I expected. No. Like, I was thinking more ethics as in, like, when conducting experiments, make sure you do this and you safeguard the people that are involved and all this. And this is basically saying, we're going to deal with ghosts and be nice to them. And I get it.
Pretty much.
I get it. But I don't really consider that ethical.
Or a case that we've talked about before, doing experiments on people without telling them you're doing fucking experiments on them.
Wait, same guy.
Oh, is it? Was that the one we talked about? Oh, shit.
Same guy.
I forgot that. Yeah, don't hit people with shit.
Speaking to that, I went back to that section as I was reading page 236, where they have a quote, long-standing theory in the paranormal field that entities are unaware of their own deaths. It is also considered disrespectful and potentially harmful to remind the entity of their passing. I mean, my comments are why? How do you know that? Where did it come from?
Right.
And then you go back to the ethics statement. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to be ethical and now you're stating there's a long-standing theory, where is that coming from?
Right.
I mean, to me, it was a bit of a contradiction. I don't know.
Well,
I just
this entire book is a contradiction. So yeah.
ugh.
I'm ready for another one. Let's go. Let's go.
You're ready for another one. Here we go. All right. So let's, I think maybe we'll save the data logging and all the correlations and things they talked about for after the break, because that's at least one area I wanted to spend a decent amount of time on. So, I don't know. We'll let Kenny pick the next topic here.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I thought I was up. Sorry.
this is
Sorry,
like
Tim, did I skip you?
Oh.
No.
Okay.
just
this
having too
goes
much
across the entire book, but it starts. My issue starts on page 43 under investigation. It's actually in the same chapter as ethics, and it's called baseline readings. And under baseline readings, it instructs you to collect all data prior to the investigation. Continue to monitor the data from the first baseline reading until the moment you break down the equipment. All recordings should be run simultaneously on a time code. So from that, it's telling me that as soon as he steps within a place, he's recording and should be recording and does these baseline. Well, he actually says from the first baseline reading, doesn't tell you how long he does baseline readings, which is probably only a few minutes, if that. But as I read the second part of the book, which is the TV show episodes, and that's basically what it is. Every chapter is just an episode of their canceled reboot of Ghost Hunters. I just want to throw that in there. But throughout the stories, they never mention base readings. It's like they show up to a spot or they get told, all right, go from here to here. And they sit down and they break out like one of their, I don't know, devices like this and start taking readings. And as soon as things blink, they're like, oh yeah, it's communication. We're doing this. Never refers back to this early page where they're supposed to be recording everything at all times. So they have, I don't understand, like they're reading EMF, they're reading humidity, they're reading barometric pressure, which is something we're definitely going to get into, I'm sure. But they're not comparing it to anything. They have nothing to compare it to. It's just like, oh, if it lights up, oh yeah, we're talking to a ghost. That's obviously a ghost. And that was the mentality throughout the book. So there you go. That's my point.
Okay.
Again.
So I would also say a problem with their baselines, in addition to what you noted, was that they seem to move their equipment around, especially a data logger. Not a good idea. Walk around with it unless you're somehow recording and linking up any video as you walk around. But typically with a baseline, you want to set it somewhere and establish a long-term baseline within a specific location. You don't want to walk around with it. So anyway, all right, Tim, what do you have to say about the baseline situation?
So that whole chapter is the protocol, I'm going to guess, of conducting an investigation. So if we look at the science part of the claim, and then we look at what we're going to teach, I just felt like, whoops, there should have been, damn, this reverse shit in alcohol. I don't know why there's not more here. And it starts out exactly with baselines. Baselines readings are crucial to our research.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder if this is a book for entertainment and I mistook it as a book for actual educational purposes because of the use of the word science. But it just feels to me like if your protocol, if you're going to teach and have scientific protocol that you're going to put you would have more than if I was a brand new paranormal investigator and I got this book to help me, like, what am I going to learn from this?
Right.
What baseline readings with what? How often? How long? What do I do with it when I'm done? What does something tell? Like, what is out of normal? How am I going to determine normal? How will I know what an outlier is? How will I know how to do statistics? But the moon phase, okay. Oh, let's throw moon phase in there. Humidity.
Yes. Talk about that.
Were you wearing any? I'm not going to say that's not in the book. I started saying, are you wearing any crystals? Did
Might as well be.
Did you have your Reiki this morning? I just don't. It's just a huge miss unless I'm misunderstanding this part of the book. But protocol to me tells me when I see protocol and procedure, which I'm very used to in my day job, protocol means this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And if you don't, but there is nothing in there to tell me how I'm going to do it. It just says we're monitoring the baseline reading. So it's very short.
I'm used to
letdown for me.
Protocols that tell me exactly step by step how to do something. You know, like this is the procedure you do it, and these are the protocols you follow while doing that procedure. And you know, it's detailed. This is less than half a page, and it's ridiculous. And moon phase, the fuck you doing with that? Seriously. Moon phase is how much light falls on the fucking moon. It doesn't affect anything. Position of the moon has an effect, but not how much light is on it. Let's get that straight. All right, I'm done.
All right. Well, I think we.
I don't want to get fucking. I'm already.
I think we addressed the baseline issue. So why don't we go ahead and take our break now, and let's come back.
Baseline.
Yeah, let's take a baseline reading on our alcohol levels. And then we'll come back and let's get into the data logging and some of the correlations they talked about. And then, I mean, I got a couple other small things, and then we can kind of wrap it up if you guys are good with that. All right, you ready for break? Let me get the break called up. Ready? 3, 2. All right, welcome back. Hopefully, we
Yeah,
have empty
right on.
bladders and full beer bottles.
Woo!
All
That
right,
is a blast of energy to
blast of energy. Oh, now I got to open the other beer I brought up so I can take a drink of it because you said energy. Damn
Just
it!
looking. I'll drink with you.
Oh, I want to.
So we'll put this one up since we're on an energy drink run here.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, there's always the energy word thrown around. So yes,
Right.
Oh.
Referring
right.
to it like as a entity itself, the energy, the metaphysical energy. Whatever.
So JD, quick question: deceitfulness or incompetence? I'm probably gonna say incompetence. I'm not sure it's deceitful.
Yeah, I mean, it probably isn't. That was probably a wrong choice of words on my part. You're right. It's probably more incompetence with putting it together and what they think that they know versus what they should know. So not actually deliver. Although I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with this, like
Yeah.
And full disclosure, this is the same guy. I wrote an article about the Spirit Com, which was a hoax when it was out in I think the 60s or 70s. I forget exactly when. It's been a while since I read it. But he tried to resurrect it on one of his episodes. And when I approached him about, have you read the work that came after it that exposed it? And I got like yeah, I read that. Which just to me was like, no, you didn't. No, I'm pretty sure you didn't, because you had no comment about it. And it's just, I don't like, I think there's a blurry line there between incompetence and deceitfulness, because if you're willfully ignoring shit, are you being deceitful?
But are they? Are they though? Or they just don't know?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say for sure.
I mean, I was
That goes back to what I was saying. Like, I don't know if this book is supposed to be an educational book or if it's supposed to be a entertainment or a book about look what we've done. There certainly is a lot of references to what they have done. A little bit of, I guess, patting themselves on the back.
Right.
It felt like a lot. So I don't know if it almost seems like maybe a memoirs book. I just couldn't, like, I got too much into the thinking this is going to be a good science-based book based on just the way it was presented
it was hopeful.
It was hopeful, but it didn't turn out that way. And I don't know if, it's one of those things like, was it missing a for entertainment purposes only on the inside of one of the covers? It just didn't feel it.
All right, let's jump into the data logging and some of the supposed correlations that they found. So I'll set it up and then I'll turn it over to you two. So they claim that they found changes and correlations in barometric pressure, EVP, visual anomalies, EMF, and photon events. So there's all these correlations, and you start wondering, well, how did you determine those correlations? Data logging. That's awesome. So they're logging their information on the EDI Plus data logger, and which Kenny bought one, which was great. And they collected, what I hoped is that they had collected the data and they actually had put some sort of numerical numbers out there and showed us what those correlations were and provided the type of analysis they did, and at least show me the graph, at least show me what happened when. The problem I had was they got into only talking about how they would watch the LED lights on the data logger flash to indicate certain changes in environmental conditions. So that raised a couple red flags for me, of course. How do you really know, without presenting any way that you analyze that, how do you know those are true correlations? So we've talked about and we have the shirts, the ghost hunting contingency table. How many times did that light flash when you just sat there and you were quiet? And how many times did it flash when, when you asked questions, or you were just asking random questions or just talking? And what's the impact of it, walking around, and what's the precision accuracy of the equipment? So I had all kinds of questions. And we started digging into this pretty heavily, to the point where the three of us had in-depth discussions on it. Kenny bought the EDI Plus meter. I ran some sensors and data logging for barometric pressure at my house to see what would affect it with a different sensor, but it works the same way it's supposed to. And we found some pretty interesting stuff. So my point was, where is the actual data? Where is it? And why wasn't it presented? And if it is such a huge finding that they talk about at one point, they're like, oh my God, this is something that's never been found before, and it's earth shattering, and it's going to move the field forward. Well, where is it? One, what's the actual numbers? What's the analysis you did? And why, if you have a double PhD on your team, are you not publishing this for a peer-reviewed journal article? So that's
Right.
where I'm going to open up this part of the discussion, and I will turn it over to who's up. I forget who.
I'll do
Tim
it.
raises his hand first. We'll start with Tim.
So this is kind of brings up, I think, where a note that I found in the book. Well, it's too much. It's on page 38. I'll just quote it. Again, it was something I was looking for, a citation, but it just says, why are there correlations between electronic voice phenomena, EVP, and visual anomalies with pressure? Yeah, you did it too. I would have liked, where's this citation? Like, how did you get to this? Is this just something you as a person have experienced? Or is there some type of publication that goes with this? And it's fine if there is. If there is data that points to that, again, it would have been good to have that citation to see, the way that's worded is like, it's true. Why are there correlations between EVP and pressure? It doesn't say in this study, doctor or person X, Y, and Z together did these studies, which are referenced and cited here, that you can see for yourself, that when there's an EVP, that they often find a rise in pressure. It's not worded that way. It's just like, hey, why is this true?
Right.
Right. Well, how do I know it's true? Just because you're asking it. And I think that this sets up, that little piece right there sets up all this. And I think that is like one of the chess pieces to get all this to sound really good. Because there are a lot of that data logger, which you guys will, I know Dave will, but get into. I don't think it was doing what they think it was doing, but it's just, this sets up that little phrase, this little catch, and that sets up for the rest of the book that all this, because we have a data logger with pressure that blinks, is true because of that. Right. And if you're going to do that, then let me see how you got to that. I would have liked to have seen that. If it's your own if it's your own opinion, at least put that it's your own opinion. If it's something that you saw during your 16 years and you've never really studied it, but it's just something that you noticed, put that. At least give me the information of how you arrived to that information.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, Kenny.
So, yeah, I mean, they have a lot of references back to this changes in pressure, barometric pressure, and they're banking a lot on this. The overall tone is that the impression that I got from this book is that they are pushing that narrative. They're pushing that, hey, ghost interaction equals change in barometric pressure. and it's based off of using this device, the EDI plus, and the light right there that blinks when there's a change in pressure. So this is one thing that we started discussing because I brought it up. I had no idea. I don't know how that works. I'm not well versed in that, so I started looking it up and realized, okay, so it's measured in HPA, which is hectopascal
Pascals.
pressure unit. I'm getting there. And this device itself has a, let's say, it says accurate within a range of 1 to 1 hectopascal in 300 to 1,000 hectopascal range. So I guess it's pretty good accuracy, it claims. But the alarm LED goes off when there's a plus or minus 0.15 change in less than 5 seconds. So that's when the light goes off. So that's what I brought up, especially to Dave, because I know he's really into the data logging and would have a better idea about this. I had no idea what that meant. So I asked you, and what did you tell me? I'll let you take over.
So what I looked at some of the old data that I had collected for years, and believe me, data logging is not the first time that this has been done in this book. At least with Jen and I, the group that Jen ran and I joined, even back then, we were doing data logging and we were logging barometric pressure changes. So I thought, well, okay, if their sensor is that accurate and it's detecting that, and you're talking about a change, I think the LEDs, what was it, 0.1?
0.15. Yeah.
0.15 is what they were saying that it would change. Is that something that is just normal? Is it natural play in the
Right.
sensor? I mean, really, what is it? So let me see if I can share my screen here, because I pulled up some old data and started showing it to Tim and Kenny. And all right, let me grab the window. Here it is. Share. And Chrome has lost permit. Here, I've lost permission to share my screen. So anyway, I'll work on that. But the bottom line is the 0.1 difference. You would see the natural fluctuation just in the readings it's taking. I mean, mine was going from anywhere easily 0.1, just bouncing all over the place, to 0.1 to 0.3 to 0.5 to 1. And I converted the scale so it's similar to what you see in their data. So to me, it's just nothing but natural fluctuations bouncing around. And the fact that you're using the LEDs, all you're knowing is there's some change of 0.1. That's it.
Right.
Without seeing the data and analyzing it, it's honestly quite meaningless. So here, I can share it on my phone here. So if you see that, that's just normal barometric pressure readings, data logged.
It's going dark.
Bouncing around. And those are easily from the range of 0.1 to 0.4 or more. Easy.
Right.
So that was one thing.
Yeah,
that's one thing. The second thing is, what about opening doors, closing doors, temperature change, furnaces on and off? So I took a look at that. I ran the data logger and captured a couple of those as they were happening. And this will be one, that big, can you see it? The big spike there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the door was opened. So the other thing that I noted as I did this, if you see this up and down on this one, it goes up, it goes down. Guess what? That's when the furnace went on and went off. And if you do any Google search in an open system, as the temperature goes up, barometric pressure goes down. So it's an inverse relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm sitting here thinking, are they really seeing anything that correlates, or is it just random and or natural fluctuations in the data that's logging and what's going on in the environment?
Right.
So my take on it is, unless you can show me the data and you can specifically show a statistically significant correlation
Mm-hmm.
with changes versus background with what they were trying to correlate it with, be it an experience, an EVP, an EMF, whatever else they came up with, I can't make heads or tails of this. So I can't agree it's a correlation.
Right.
So
And
that's
for
my
such
take on it.
a small window to change. I mean, a 0.15, that's tiny, and you could see it going off. And one of the points that I want to bring up, I have a couple issues with this data logger, but one of the issues that we brought up was that I had a brain fart. I totally lost my idea.
Drink.
Wow, it just went gone. I had, all right, I'm just going to jump over to the other issues.
There's a lot of them.
I got this. I bought this because of this book. So this is probably the most expensive thing I've ever bought for ghost hunting. Because it was like I don't know, it was like 100 and I forget what it was, but so I got it right out of the box. Some of the things, and I even sent videos to these guys because I started recording and started messing with it. And you can set it on different displays. So you can push a button and it'll tell you like what, depending on what light lights up, it's telling you what on the display. Oh, that's reminded
There
me.
it is.
The clip that Tim, you sent us of these guys, these particular authors using this.
Yeah.
We never get to see the screen.
I
The
know.
display. Because the first shot is like this. And then the second shot, they actually put a teacup over top, like on it.
Yeah.
So you can't see the display.
Yes.
Which really pissed me off.
I think that was on purpose.
But this thing, I wouldn't trust this. It never settles on one reading. It's constantly changing. I don't know if you can see that. So that's on pressure. And it's constantly doing that. It's constantly going back and forth. And I noticed a few times, and this is one of the videos that I sent you, when I took it outside to measure for temperature. So I went from my house, which was about 66 degrees, and I went outside to 30 some degree weather outside. I put this on my wall, on my front porch wall. The temperature lights, so it's got a blue light here, it's got a red light here telling you increase or decrease. It started to decrease, flashing the blue light, and then it flashed the red light, and the temperature went up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? How is this happening? I don't understand why this is happening. It should be going down. That's it, like going from 66 to 30 some. And another thing I caught was what really bothered me is that I put an SD card in here to start recording because I wanted to get, like this data for Dave to look at. And as soon as I hit record button, I noticed that the EMF, which is this set of lights, started registering like about once every 15 seconds.
Oh, it's reading the writing on this.
And I was like, what? What is that about? And then I hit the record button to stop it. Nothing. Hit the record button again. Every 15 seconds or so, it lit up. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I took video of it, which I sent you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then I even went downstairs and I'm like, look at this. And I'm showing my wife. I'm like, it did it again. And then it does it randomly now. So
weird.
But even like with the EMF meter, I had it next to this meter, and it's reading completely different than this one does. And I tried to do, because they're both single axis.
Do you know which way the sensors are oriented?
I don't.
Okay, because that could be part of the problem.
Yeah, I was trying to take that into account and rotating.
Let alone the sensors themselves. Yeah.
But even this, I want to show you, like, if you can see that. See the bar along the bottom, the colored bar?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is telling you 1 milligauss, 2.5 milligauss, 5. So I was having readings of like 4 milligauss, and none of the lights were coming on. So I mean, it was way off. It was the calibration is way off. So I wouldn't trust this thing at all. But you wouldn't know that unless you actually bought one.
Yeah.
So
I think we're definitely going to dive into that piece of equipment in a separate show. I spend a lot more time on it, and that'll give us a chance to play around with it a little bit more. But there's definitely a lot of reasons to doubt the interpretation of the flashing lights as far as correlations and data.
Right. I'm sorry I took so long talking about that. I just wanted to give some kind of context to the equipment we're dealing with.
I have a very I'm hearing loud and clear that this will not be a piece of equipment that I will get for what I'm wanting to do.
Yeah, I don't think you want this.
I also have the idea that you get what you pay for. So what I want to do, I'm going to have to like come up with some funding.
Right.
So again, it's not something that's not been done before. I mean, there's systems out there you can buy stuff off the shelf that'll do all this. It's going to cost a little bit more than what you paid for it. I think $180-$200 is probably what that EDI plus costs. Is it better than not data logging? Yeah. It's just you got to know what the limitations are, and I would recommend not just reading the LED lights, but download that data and statistically analyze it. Look at what the background levels are, look at what the standard deviations are, and figure out if the changes are significant. That's how I would at least first begin to start using that. And, take a look at the other systems out there. There's the one our group designed, that dead system. It's all off the shelf sensor stuff, but it's high end and it costs a lot, but it serves its purpose and it does a good job. There's other systems. There's Mesa, there's Geist, there's Arcadia. There's a ton of different data logging systems that people have come up with. So this isn't the only time this has been done. And it's been, quite honestly, it's been done a lot better. And there's actually published data out there on what other people have found. I'm going to make one more comment, turn it over to Tim, and then hopefully we can wrap up the data logging for now. They made the statement that they checked cell phones, walkie-talkies, cameras, and it did not set that piece of equipment off. And I'm gonna probably have to call bullshit on that one, because I cannot believe it would not set off at least the EMF sensors in that device.
Surprisingly, I haven't tested all those. I did two-way radio.
Okay.
And because I have my regular two-way radio that I was playing with. So I have it here.
Okay.
And it did not make it go off. I was next to it and trying to make it go off. The bottom one is a vibration sensor. That's what you're seeing go off here. These lights up here are the EMF. So just holding it in and going around, I couldn't make it go off, which I'm used to other EMF meters actually going off with this.
Call Kenny on the phone real fast.
It could be because of the frequency range of the actual sensors in there.
Right.
That might be what it is. So okay, well, if it doesn't set it off, it doesn't set it off. So okay, we'll have to,
and this is only good
a little bit.
This is only good between 1 and 12 milligauss. That's the range.
So, okay. So that's why your two-way won't set it off.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Tim?
This is honestly, data recording is something that I'm been interested in for a while. A lot more since listening to Dave and learning more from Dave, I should say. This is not my wheelhouse at all. I'm so interested. Like I'm really considering investing some time and funds into trying to do something correctly because of how we talk about baselines being a 5-minute part of a paranormal investigation. And like, what does that 5 minute or 15 minutes? I mean, if you want to say that people are doing, like, if in the grander scheme of a year, like, what is that 15 minutes? It's nothing. It doesn't mean because you didn't catch a spike in that 15 minutes that randomly, naturally something occurs on maybe a pattern, maybe not an exact pattern, but I literally would like to do that just to have something to share with everybody, with Dave and Kenny, to, we've talked about doing this together, but I would like to really put a data system into a location and go, if I can, for a year, and just to cover it a year, to show, what's what could be considered something that you would expect.
Right.
I have so much to learn. I don't know what I don't even know about data loggers. So if that makes sense. So it's something I'm very interested in. It's something I really want to learn, and something I really think I'm going to do, just so hopefully we can do that together and then have something to reference, just like, Dave pointed out with the kicking on of doors, or the furnace and doors opening. I think over a very long time, maybe a year, you can rule out the natural, like what happens. And then if you have something that seems to be an outlier of that, then hopefully somebody was around and experienced something at the same time. And that's a whole other issue. But yeah, I really want to do that to help get information across for other people.
Right. It's sorely
I
needed.
don't-
and something that's
yeah,
been called for since the 90s, baseline readings of what to expect. So you know
I'm
what
gonna-
you're looking for.
I'm going to have to lean heavy on Kenny and Dave, because I'll be like, Dave, what is this? What the fuck does this mean? And Dave will be like,
a quick answer to Paul's question there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly, Paul, but I can send you pictures, because the first thing I did was take it apart. And I took pictures of the inside of this. So I can send you the pictures, and you can take a look.
And Jim asks, the EDI
Those
plus
five-
records those 5 outputs.
EMF, vibration, temperature, humidity, and pressure. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Are we done with the data logging and the correlation?
I think so. I think it was just a wrap up comment with this is that they only used one type model. I mean, they used one data logger. That's it. And if they used more than one, it was the same model, just 2 of them.
Right.
And that's just not, I mean, it keeps it consistent, but from what I've seen just with preliminary tests, it's not reliable. So there's an issue with that. And I would do something like Dave, I think you were planning on doing. It's just side by side, we'll do comparisons, and see what we can get. So there we go.
Let's see. Wouldn't a meteorological meter cover many of the same things? Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, but it's not going to record vibration, EMF, and some of the other things that was in the article that we mentioned one time, and Tim brought it up. Things that go bump in the literature. They have a whole list of different environmental readings, and that may or may not be correlated with ghost and haunt phenomena. So yeah, you could do some of it with a meteorological meter, but there's a couple things that those type of devices probably wouldn't. So
Right.
Well, that's all the majors I wanted to talk about. I mean, we can go into a ton of different examples, but I think as far as the major things, theory, hypothesis, leading with an idea already in their mind, lack of, if they said they did a test, they didn't explain it. They didn't really provide us with any references or why it's true or where these long-standing theories came from. I guess, do you guys have anything else you want to address before we start to wrap her up?
Yeah. I'll cut it down. I mean, this could easily be like a 4-hour show. Easily. But they did bring up infrasound in the book.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was something I actually, before the show, I got a chance to talk to Dr. Jim, who's in the chat room, and we were talking about he's got a somewhat of a background in this, and we were talking about microphones, and we were looking up the Omni mic, which is
Mhm.
mentioned in the book about using it for infrasound.
Several times.
And yes, but most of the data that I could find is for the Omni mic version 2, which
Mhm.
isn't specified in this book. So
Yep.
I have to assume that they're using the original one, not the version 2, because he doesn't bring that up. And most of the comments that I found, besides it being like a $300 or $400 microphone, it's not reliable. Temperature changes can really affect it in different areas. So it does have an effect on the components. If you don't take good care of it, it can get out of calibration really easily. And these are consumer reports. It's not, hard data. I don't have anything to show you except for users coming on and complaining about their experiences with it.
Well, that goes back to not knowing which mic they use. Kind of just goes back to the thing where they say we are scientific, and this is again, like I am not a scientist. I have read a lot of publications, and I understand there's a reason in a published paper when you publish your experiment that you have equipment used and methods. You do all these things, before you get into the meat, and there's a reason for that, and that is so that people that are reviewing it knows exactly what you're using.
Right.
I think that would be a really good thing to get into the habit of doing. And if you're going to say, well, we use this mic, what mic? Like, just be very specific so that people can understand. And if they want to emulate, it's not the right word. If they want to replicate what you're doing, then they would understand which mic to get, exactly which mic to get. And I think that's important. It just, again, it's kind of nitpicky, but for me, like, if you're going to say this is scientific, then make it more scientific.
Right.
I get, yeah.
And you know what? They have room for it because in these chapters, when they write out their episodes, they have these segments of like the living, the dead, talking about what the living are complaining about. The paranormal claims, and then the investigation and the history. You have room to list out. This is the equipment that we used. And again, like if I do something where I'm using specific equipment for it, I'm telling you, if I'm using equipment that is different from the original experiment or original case that was used, I tell you, like, this is what I'm using, and this is why I'm using it in comparison to this, because the similarities or the dissimilar attributes to this, and I explain why, and I acknowledge my limitations. But to not put in anything, the numbers, and Dave, you brought this up, like the freaking readings, like he talks about decibels, which I get, it's how loud something is, but he doesn't tell you the frequencies that he's registering, allegedly registering on his computer when he's measuring this infrasound, which is, as I understand it, infrasound is between 5 and 20 hertz. Around that range.
And then OmniMic should be able to tell you that with the software they provide, as far as I could tell a quick glance at it, because it should do the spectrogram and the FFT analysis and give you the frequency.
As I was looking into it tonight, I was like, all right, it goes down to, I believe, 10 hertz, the version 2, or it might be 5 hertz. I have to check, but it does go down there. It does have software that comes with it and tells you what it is. So you should be able to provide that. And for how long? And there's also acoustics. And there's other things, Dave, you brought up when we were talking about, like measuring the room and making sure the acoustics in the room, it's not normal to be in there. Maybe it's different times of day. And this goes back to
there's ways you can measure the room and figure out what the resonant frequency of the room is, and even see if there's any frequencies that are going to be in the infrasound range. So then you should take that and see if that's actually what you get. And there's actually sound generating devices that you can generate some infrasounds and see if it hits at the resonant frequency. So there's a lot of different things they could have done, but I don't know, they just didn't, or they didn't have time to put it in the book.
Right. And I mean, there was just. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, like
I'm done.
again,
Just done.
I know.
Just do it fucking right, And I hope if either author decides to watch this show, like, learn from this. I know you're going to get pissed off because of the shit we said, but learn from this.
Feel free to contact us on Come On and Discuss It.
Yeah, I would love to do a face-to-face, virtual, and talk about this. But you do it right. If you're gonna pretend to do science, then make an effort to do it. And this was not a good effort. This was a half-assed attempt at being scientific, and it just filled in the blank. I love how both of them were like, "Oh, Kenny's on a rant. Let him go. I'll just put down my head and just, we'll do some work." But I mean, just, oh my God, it burns me up that, and full disclaimer again, I'm probably going into my wrapping up statement, but I have history with this guy, so I've written about him before, and we've also done a show on him, and we've demonstrated already that there's incompetence, there is lack of information. He doesn't know how much he doesn't know. Well, at least one of them. I don't know the other guy. I really don't know him, but judging from their origin stories, they watch a lot of horror movies. But it just doesn't come off as a science book. It doesn't come off as a history book. It looks like the history they just took from other books, because they do reference some of the histories from like different places, and it looks like they probably just borrowed from other books. So there's very little originality in this book, and it really just overall pissed me off that this is being promoted as something special, and it's not. And I'm really not trying to put them down, but hey, you're gonna put out bullshit.
I'm just saying again, like you said, there was options. Page 28 starts. Shit, which way?
Maybe if you had your full screen with your show off.
Equipment. So like it would just, for me, it would be like great. So digital audio recorder. In our research, we use digital audio recorders in an attempt to document, and then they explain why. It'd be really kind of cool to set a precedent and to like help other people that are looking at this to learn. We use this type, this make, this model, and we would recommend, if you're going to use something different and then put it out for public consumption and peer review, that your make, model number, and who made your EVP, who made your digital recorder. It was an opportunity to say, when you are publishing something with your equipment, that you put exactly what your equipment is.
Yep.
So that we can know what equipment you're using. Exactly. Not just a recorder, but what recorder.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hell, put a link, at least. Maybe.
Well, and that's a good point. A link there. That's a popular thing to do with publications, is put a link or a QR code where it can pull you to a website and give you more information. Not that difficult.
Right.
My old Dr. Sego was coming through.
All right. Anything else, or do you guys want to go into closing statements?
We should probably.
If
we're going to go, we should do it before we end up here. Like we did 3 hours the other time. So,
all right. Well, I'll start this time. So, in conclusion, the page 240, the page 241, quote, "Help this field step out of the shadow of pseudoscience." I don't think they achieved their goal. That didn't happen. I don't think this book is going to do that. After 16 years and all this data, it could have been. I wanted a whole lot more. I wanted to see it. I wanted the references. I wanted to see exactly what they were talking about, and I just didn't get it. So, for me, it's simply don't pretend to be something you are not. Don't claim that you're the first ones to introduce the scientific method to the field of the paranormal. That's not true. Don't set the premise that this is going to move the paranormal out of the shadows of pseudoscience, because my argument, and I'll argue this all day long, studying the paranormal is out of the shadow of pseudoscience. It's this type of material and other shady work that casts a shadow of pseudoscience on the real work that academics and serious researchers and investigators are trying to do. So, would I recommend it? No, I wouldn't. Bob put on a scale from Zach Bagans to Amazing Randy. How would you rate this book? I'd put about a quarter star above Zach Bagans. And Carol asks, are you going to write a review for Amazon? No, I'm not going to waste my time. And that's
I will.
That's really all I have to say to wrap it up. I think there's so much more that could be said and done. And, we like to have people on the show that differ with our opinions. So, Brandon, Mustafa, if you want to come on the show and provide more information or argue some points, we'd be glad to have you. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll turn it over to Tim for his closing thoughts.
When I saw this, I really was kind of excited to see what this was going to be. Honestly, I thought the book was going to be. I hate to kind of compare it to like a textbook, but I really thought it was going to be more of a textbook feel. With what you do, what you don't do. This is why here are references again. But this part of the book, if I can show you, this will be bad, but this part of the book is kind of the information that you see, about these are our protocols, this is our equipment. And this part of the book, that much of the book, is just talking about the investigations that they did.
Very nice, Tim. Good way to put it.
That was it.
Yeah.
So the difference between, the education part and look what we did over here is massively different. Over here would have been great if they would have said, this is what we got, this is why we got it, and here's our publications of how we got it. But they don't. They don't. It's just like, here's a story of a lovely ghost that was haunting a house with 3 lovely children of her own. That's it. That's all. That's all that this is.
Excellent.
This is a little bit of information. This is a bunch of stories. And I really hoped that whole book right there would have been textbook. I mean, it might be boring, but that would have been exciting to me. I would have loved to see it.
And it's what the field needs, really.
Yeah.
Kenny.
Serenity now.
Good night.
So I'm going to read a quote too. So on page, 47, the chapter starts out, Technology and the Paranormal. From author Brandon, it says, since 2006, I have made it my mission to advance the field and to push paranormal research into a true science. I can say with confidence that you did not do that with this book. You failed. And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's exactly for the reasons that Tim mentioned. It is a lot of... There's a lot of cherry-picked science from like websites like NASA and stuff that were put in. We didn't even touch on that tonight. That were put in here, comparing like black holes and galactic events with everyday at sea level events here, which do not compare. And it was very, very cherry-picked information to make it sound like it was sciencey. And that's what it was. It tried to make it sound scientific, but it turned out to be sciencey, which is not scientific. I think the overall tone of the book is very self-gratifying. It reminds me of a certain individual that brought us together. The way they talk, Like, I am great, I am awesome, and look at me, look at what I did. I think there's a lot of verbiage that is used to make themselves look or sound more intelligent than they are. And again, I'm not trying to be mean, but this is the impression that I'm getting. It was getting to a point where I was making notes that it was annoying how in your face they were trying to make this. I don't think the information they provided was beneficial to anyone. I think there was a lot of flaws in their methodology. I think there was a lot of assumptions being made. There were assumptions before they started their tests or experiments, and I use that term loosely. Overall, it was not what we thought it was. And I mean, I was expecting more. And like you, I think, Tim, you mentioned I was expecting more of a textbook kind of thing, but it wasn't. It was a glorified television show in writing. And I just want to I want to say something bad and good about this, because as I read this, pages fell out. Literally pages fell out of this book. And I don't know if you can see it right on the edge here. I don't know if you can see that, but the back cover is actually peeling off. So the book is literally falling apart. I did contact the publisher.
They saw your name and they were like, give that Biddle guy the book that fell off the back of the truck.
Give him the reject one. But I did contact the publisher and I sent pictures. I wasn't mean about it. I just said, hey, look, you might need to know about the manufacturing process. Something's wrong because the glue, the binding glue that you're using isn't holding. And I sent pictures, and they got back to me the very next day and said that they were going to send me out a replacement. So the publishing company is doing a good job. I mean, that's exactly what they should have done. And I appreciate that.
Very quick too.
Yeah. Very quick turnaround. So overall, I do not recommend this book. I don't think you should buy this. We bought it so you don't have to. That's basically it. So,
all right. That sums it up. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It was fun reading it and sharing the comments with you, though, back and forth. And we had a lot of F-bombs. And I made a joke at one point. I'm like, we should just read our messenger exchange and call that the show.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot more cuss words and maybe a little more entertaining. But I don't know. It was fun to read and go through with you guys. And we hit on a lot of the same stuff. But yeah, I think the three of us agree we wouldn't recommend it and expected a lot more. With that being said, I am going to start with myself for upcoming things. Saturday nights, 3 Tortured Souls. Tim?
Saturday night, 3 Tortured Souls.
You guys are dicks.
Mr. Biddle, what do you got?
I have Friday nights. I have the Skeptical Help Bar, which is coming along nicely. I have a couple guests lined up. I'm going to have, I don't have a date nailed down, but I have Robert Murch, the Ouija board guy. He's going to come on and talk about Ouija boards, the history of it. And
cool. Then
I have a teacher that's going to come on that has developed a class for critical thinking. And I nailed that down. I nailed down that date. And she's going to be on soon. So check it out. And then Saturday nights, I do this show with these two guys, which is always fun. Always fun. And that's all I'm going to say right now, because again, the world is still in chaos and I don't know what's going to happen. So true. There you go.
Things are up in the air with meetings. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the first 3 Tortured Souls book club book review. It's something that, as we come across new books, we'll probably put it in the rotation. Same thing with the open mic night. I think we've made that a thing. At least every 4th week, we'll jump into an open mic night. So I think we decided to we picked every 4th one, so each one of us has a chance to host the open mic, and it doesn't just fall into a rotation where like Tim or Kenny or Dave are
get the day off.
Get the day off every time. I'm okay with that, but we're gonna move it around. So thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week. Stay safe and healthy, everybody. Take care.
Don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles. Game in the real, those ones in the air in the real, big little thrill. Don't rush with me, 10 years ago, and it is not, stay missed about. Those summer ones, running on TV. Don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles, don't for Charles. And for what you say, oh, you'll get to better.